Hi everyone, it's Wilhelm Hast here, and in today's video we're going to speak about something I find very interesting. The only two things you need to focus on to have a breakthrough in your productivity is one thing, and the second thing fascinates me a lot. It has to do with why we can't find solutions to problems that arise or things we want to sort out or take care of at the same level where they occur. That's what these dots are about, and these are the two things we need to focus on. P, what could that stand for? Well, it's presence or being present. That's really the first thing and the most powerful things I've seen in working with people's productivity. When a human being loses his or her presence, we are less productive than when we find our presence again. Oh, that became a blue pen. That's interesting. Well, that works in a way. And as you might have noticed, these videos are high quality content and low quality production. So we go with that. My colleague Monica is smiling in the background here. So, learning to catch yourself when you lose your presence is the first key to being more present. It's difficult to work on being present. You need to work on catching yourself losing your presence. We all overreact sometimes. We all get triggered by input and stimuli, and off we go. I caught myself yesterday being on some web page that I ended up on by starting to look for some information in a mail. I saw some other mail with an interesting link, and I click and boom, off I went. I wasn't present. So a tip here is to slow down a bit and notice what happens. The practice of slowing down has caused remarkable results for people I coach with. The instruction is like this, exactly. Experiment with slowing down and notice what happened. And when you've done that, slow down some more. I had one woman who participated in the Trifectness program. She was overwhelmed, so busy in her days. Her word was, I do not have a life when I get home in the evenings. I can't do this much longer, I'll burn out. She took on this instruction to slow down and see what happened, and then slow down some more. And she was amazed. I spoke to her 2 weeks later. She said, I can't believe what happened. I do things in a lower pace during my work days. I still get everything done, and I have so much energy when I get home in the evening. I can't believe it. The thing is, we have a natural intelligence as human beings. We have an innate wisdom. You know what's good for you. You know what's best for you. Most of the time, the only thing you don't see it when you get lost and you're acting too quickly, you're rushing, you're speeding, you're reacting. You lose touch with your own inner wisdom or what's best for you. And slowing down, the woman I'm speaking about got in touch with what was true for her, her true choices, what she wanted to say yes to and no to. She started to listen to people differently. She felt accused by people a lot of the time because they placed high demands on her. When she slowed down and got present, she could hear they are just stressed and annoyed with not having gotten what they need. So she started to ask them different questions and started to provide what they were really asking her to do. Instead of just reacting to what they said, she could actually hear their needs in a new way. People around her also started to get more present and slow down by her slowing down. So that's the first thing and the first takeaway from this video. Experiment with slowing down and notice what happened. And when you do that, slow down a little more. And you could be amazed how well that works. Now the second word is a word I also love. It's the word clarity. Clarity. The more clarity you get, the more productive and effective you'll be. It's as simple as that. However, clarity comes in different levels. We'll get to them here. And the first thing I suggest you get clarity on is what kind of questions to ask and where to look for answers. Basically learning how to learn. There is a difference between being a physicist and an engineer. Physicists and engineers ask different questions. This is a metaphor, so I'm not labeling physicists and engineers, but they are different. There's a different nature to their kind of work. What a physicist does, they basically ask questions like, how does it work? They look into the design of nature, the design of physics, and ask, how does this work?
Jag förstår inte. Se.
That was actually hilarious. It was Siri, I think, on my colleague's phone who says, I don't understand. Please explain. In Swedish, that was hilarious. Well, I'll explain some more then, if that wasn't clear. Physicists study how things work. Engineers study what to do. So most people I meet who want to improve their productivity ask engineering questions. They ask, Wilhelm, what should I do? How to do this? How to do that? Should I use paper? Should I use electronic? How should I do it? What should I say? It's all questions that are appropriate as an engineer when you want to create something tangible, something very specific. However, if an engineer doesn't know his or her physics, it doesn't work well with engineering. If an engineer doesn't know the laws of physics, they are not a great engineer. If people don't know the laws of productivity, they won't do well when I tell them what to do about productivity. I'll try to explain it this way. It has to do with where you focus. Most people who want to improve their results focus on the results. R stands for results. And they forget, first of all, that there is a capacity available to produce those results. So we put here capacity for results. Now you and I have a capacity to produce results, and we have results. When people get into a sense of overwhelm or stress, or that the demand for results gets higher than their capacity for results, something interesting happens. We try to increase the capacity by increasing speed. And that works sometimes. If your result is, I want to catch the bus, you're noticing you're getting late and you see the bus coming at the bus stop. Sure, you make your use of your inherent capacity and you start running and you catch the bus, which was the intended result. So increasing speed works really well for short-term results. It does not work well for increasing workload. People focus way too much on the results and way too little on building their capacity for results, in my observation, in most workplaces. Effectiveness is when there is a balance between the capacity for results and, you could say, the demand for results or the intentional results or the focus on results. This is how effectiveness works all the time. Effectiveness is the result of balance between the results themselves and an individual's capacity to produce those results. Now, to get more effective, increasing speed, it's good if you want to catch the bus. It's disastrous if you want to work as a knowledge worker, or you work in an office, or you work with leadership, or you work with project management. Yes, the increasing speed as a solution doesn't work. What people also do is they increase hours. They take work home in the evenings. They start working weekends. They skip lunch. So increasing hours, of course, brings the capacity up short term, but long time you burn out and you have less capacity. Now, what I'll speak about here soon is some interesting areas of focus that starts to increase capacity. Experimenting with slowing down might do this to you. You start to see that you get more capacity to listen to people. You get more capacity to make good choices. You get more capacity to choose to rest when you need to rest. You get more capacity because you get creative and you get better ideas when you slow down. All of those things do not normally happen when people speed up, but they do happen when people slow down, and slowing down most often increases people's capacity. And of course, then there is opportunity for new results. There are some things down here which doesn't do that. Actually, it does this. The box of results here, it creates leverage. So even your current capacity and current competence gets a much higher leverage, because if this is like a board here on a level, extending the board has a much higher effect than simply increasing capacity. So I'll get a little bit into that in this video today. So what have we said so far? Well, it's all about being present. That's the start of increasing your productivity. And the second thing is getting clarity. We talked about clarity on what kind of questions to ask, and it is how does it work questions, not what to do question, but how does it work? And then we talked about how does effectiveness work. And effectiveness works in terms of balance between results and capacity. And there are ways to increase capacity. And you got a first tip of slowing down. Now, these four levels are interesting. You can't find solutions, I said, on the same level where you need to deal with the problem. So let's change colors again and use black for the blue dots. You have the level of doing, and you can't really get a breakthrough by looking for alternatives of doing without understanding the principles that are operating. You could call it behind the surface of doing. So we have doing, and then you have operating principles. Down here we have first principles, I get to that. The operating principles are principles that illustrate or determine how something functions. Like a principle for an engine in terms of an operating principle is that the engine needs some kind of fuel. Without fuel, the engine wouldn't work. There can be many different kinds of fuels. The doing can be different. You can pull petrol in the tank, you can pull diesel in the tank, you could pull maybe hydrogen in the tank, you could use solar energy and have battery power as a fuel. It's powered by batteries. But without following the principle of putting fuel to use in an engine, the engine wouldn't have much output, of course. Now, what are operating principles in terms of doing things to be more productive? Well, the doing, people put things in their calendar and they put things on to-do lists and they put things in their notebook, right? So people write stuff different ways to try to get things done and be productive. Now, when we understand some operating principles for why we do some things or the purpose of doing some things, things clear up by themselves most often. Such an operating principle is the fact that a lot of what we write down in our doing is reminders. The calendar and the to-do list have the exact same underlying principle at work in terms of creating reminders for you. The calendars create reminders for some time-based activities, and the to-do list are reminders for activities that most often isn't time-based. Now, the principle is this. When you have a reminder you really trust for something, your mind gets relaxed and you stop thinking about it. When you don't have a reminder you trust, your mind will keep reminding you. It's really good at reminding people about stuff. It happens all the time. So what to look for is, what is a reminder that I trust regarding this? It's not what's best to write things in the to-do list or the calendar. The answer to that is found in looking here. Well, what is a reminder I trust about this? It could be neither the calendar or the to-do list. You need to take the material that you're want to remind yourself to bring to a meeting, put it in a plastic bag and hang it on the door handle. That might be a reminder you trust. The calendar and the to-do list are just two ways of creating reminders that you trust, and there might be a myriad of other ways to create reminders you trust. So whether to use electronic or paper-based calendars, whether to use a complex project management system that you download online or post-it notes, it's not whether post-it notes or complex systems are better or worse. It's not if calendars should be paper-based or digital-based. It has to do with what works for you in terms of being reminded. If you knew you would be reminded without fail by your tools, you would say that your tools worked really, really great in terms of planning and reminding. That's just one example of operating principles. I'll put a link down below this video to a webpage which shows you probably 20 or 15, 20 operating principles that we work with that are really, really interesting, and reminders that you trust is just one of them. Okay, that's a good example. How do you create reminders you trust? Well, that's another conversation with way more depth. Okay. Another level people look for answers at, besides what to do, is this question: why do I whatever? Kind of they want to understand themselves better. Why do I procrastinate? Why do I always wait to the last minute to do things? Why do I stay an extra half hour at work although I had decided to go home at 5 o'clock? Why am I so absent-minded in the evenings and can't stop thinking of work? Why am I so snappy sometimes towards my colleagues, though I really want to listen and be kind to them? I lose my temper, and why do I do that? Well, why you do what you do is best answered by studying something else than you. Trying to sort out your own psychology is not helpful. Learning about the design of being human is incredibly helpful. So here we have first principles, like natural laws. I call it what's true for all human beings all the time. We could say this domain or level is about what's true for all human beings all the time. And the next level is what's true for you. You learn a lot about your individuality in yourself by studying how all human beings are designed. You get personal insights by seeing clearly how all human beings function. It's really interesting, but our mind seems to be wired like that. You get personal insights about you by studying how all human beings work. Just one example here would be the fact that all human beings have a mind. All human beings have a heart, biologically, that keeps beating and pumping oxygen into our body. But all human beings also have a mind. You could call it psychologically or ontologically. And that mind talks. All human beings have a mind, and that mind talks. It talks to you right now. You might say, talks? What do you mean talks? Yeah, your mind said that. You have thoughts is another way to put it. All human beings think. All human beings have thinking, and that thinking does the same thing to all human beings all the time. The thoughts we have create emotions or creates feelings. That's true for all human beings all the time. When our thoughts shift, our feelings shift. And the more you get to see that design of the human mind, the more you start to understand why you feel as you feel sometimes. It has to do a lot with your thinking. It has to do not so much with your circumstance, actually. That's also for another video, we'll get to that. All human beings get insights. All human beings can have aha moments like, wow, I saw something I didn't see before. Learning how insights function learning the design of the mind and its capacity to have insights will allow for you to have insights about you personally. So basically what I'm saying here, I'm just sharing that the more clarity we have about where to focus, in this case on the design of the human mind, you will personally learn more about yourself than if you try to look inside your own mind. When you get clarity on what kind of questions to ask with regards to principles, you will notice that you do things much more effectively. One such example here is to keep new information in the email separate from reminders about emails you've seen already. When those two get distinct for any human being, their brain goes, "Oh, thank you." That means when you see new mail, you don't see any mail you've seen before and have a reminder for. And when you see reminders to act on mails that you've seen, there's no new mails there. It's a super simple little setup with a rule and 2 folders that has your brain and your doing work way much better because you understand the underlying principle of separating collection from reminders. So this is it for today. It's basically an overview to create some interest in different areas of study. I'll post a link to a webpage that explains a lot about these 4 levels and a lot of more examples of them, because that's really where the key lies. One such principle for having breakthroughs in effectiveness is also ongoing study and simply being reminded. So this is a time of year when a lot of people come back from vacation. So I'll be sending out shortly about 10 videos, 1 per day. They'll be very, very short, like 3 to 5 minutes max. And when you open them and see them, you will get tips and suggestions on things to do, 1 thing per day, to get a really great start at this time of year. And I will also explain in those videos some underlying principle that might be hidden, which will make it much easier for you to actually keep doing those things to get really productive. Thanks for watching, and leave a comment or a thumbs up, some thumbs down, whatever is appropriate for you for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.